Hello, Central New York, and hello, hockey fans all across the internet, and welcome to 315 Hockey Live, brought to you by 315hockey.com and powered by My Little Falls. I'm your host, Scott Kinville, and it's a fun time, boys. It's really fun.
Christmas.
It's just an extended Christmas. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Playoff time. You can't go wrong with playoff time. And of course, both of Central New York's AHL teams are in the Calder Cup playoffs. Last week, we had Daniel Walcott on from the Syracuse Crunch. Very interesting conversation. Great guy. The Crunch are up 2-0 in their series against the Rochester Americans, looking to advance to the North Division Final. And the other Central New York AHL team, the Utica Comets, went ahead and beat Laval in their first round matchup 2-0. We're going to talk about all that because they got Toronto coming up. Before we start with that, though, I want to bring in my co-host. First of all, sitting right across the table
Somewhere.
for me. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. He's over there. He's pressing all kinds of buttons. Got
Yeah,
this big grin on his face. He's all happy because it's playoff time.
I know. I'm just messing with buttons. I
It's
don't know.
Dave the
what I'm
Save
doing.
Warner. There he is.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
put the camera on himself.
I put the camera on myself for a minute.
Give everybody a break from my face. Is that what it is?
Really?
Yeah.
I would have left the camera longer then.
Yeah. And our other co-host, he is the host of the Common Flock podcast. He is Mr. Jordan Brockway. Jordan, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just getting ready for the next Utica series, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And, before we get into that Toronto series, let's, just do a quick recap on that Laval series. I'll tell you what, going into that series, I was expecting the Comets to have their hands full. I really was, because Laval gave them fits during the regular season. They won 5 of the 6 regular season games going into it. And let's face it, folks, Laval had an explosive offense. Last time we talked about it, they were number 2 in the AHL in offense. And I'll tell you, Nico Dawes and the Comets just shut the door on them. They really did. So impressive. They went up to Laval for game 1. That was last Wednesday night. They shut them out 4-0. Nico Dawes was fantastic. They come home Friday night, and what a thriller that game was. I was there, and it was just electric in that place. 0-0 after 2 periods, which is really surprising, actually, given the firepower that Laval has. Laval scores first in the 3rd period. With 2 seconds left in the game, Riley Walsh ties the score. Place goes bananas. They go crazy, right? And then
your clown suit worked then?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm always wearing a clown suit, of course, right?
I thought everybody was dressed as clowns for that one.
Yeah, exactly. And then about 3.5 minutes in overtime, it was 2 minutes and 45 seconds, actually, to be exact.
Yeah.
Sammy LeBert scores. Place goes crazy. Comets win. Jordan, you were at that game. I'm sure you watched the game Wednesday night. What did the Comets do that impressed you the most?
Honestly, it was just getting in front of shots and not letting Laval get a clear lane to the net. That's something that I always yell at, no matter if it's the Comets, it's the Rangers, or if I'm watching just like youth hockey. It's always, get in front of a shot. That way it's not getting on your goalie. And that's something they did. And not only that, when they did get on net, Dawes was there. Dawes was always there, no matter if there was a rebound or it was just a shot that went through a couple guys. That was really impressive for the Comets last game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, those 2 games against Laval, they played really physical, too, which was something we hadn't seen in quite a while, just a full 60-minute physical game out of them. Going in towards the end of the regular season, let's face it, it was starting to, make Comets fans a little bit nervous because they weren't playing their best hockey. They really weren't. They kind of seemed to be going cold at the wrong time. But those last 2 games of the regular season, they beat Cleveland on Friday night, the 14th, to clinch their playoff spot. And then the next night, they beat Syracuse in overtime, which was another come-from-behind victory to give them that momentum going into that series against Laval. But you mentioned Nico Dawes, and I'll tell you, it didn't seem it. But I did a little deep dive on the numbers for Nico Dawes, and he has been fantastic over the past, since the end of February, really. In his last 9 starts, and that's including the playoffs, he has allowed 1 goal or less in 7 of them. And
That's neat.
It is. It's really good. And you know what the sad part is he only won 6 of those starts because through obviously no fault of his, but the offense was struggling. It really was. And one of those games that he allowed one or less, he got a shutout, but he had to take the loss because it was that 1-0 shootout loss to Rochester. On March 25th. Can you imagine that feeling? That's got to just stink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut him out, and then he take the loss.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly, right? But yeah, it's like in baseball having a no-hitter going in the ninth and then give up a home run to lose the game.
Yeah, really.
But
Or
no,
no, a home run after you've shut them out.
Yeah.
Through the whole game.
right,
And then
right.
somebody comes on and says, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to go get one."
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, like you said, though, Jordan, Nico has been his angles have been there. And you know what? The one thing that I've seen out of him in the past month, he's playing more aggressive.
Yeah.
He's starting to come out of his net a little bit more. He's attacking to play more. You know, earlier in the season, it was kind of trying to find his way. But these past 6 weeks, he's been lights out.
Yeah, and that's big for a goaltender, too.
Oh, it is. There's no doubt. And just looking at it overall, so his overall record for the regular season was 16, 14, and 3. He had a GAA of 2.70, 904 save percentage, and he did have the 2 shutouts. Now, another little thing that I do, because I like to do these deep dives.
Yeah.
I love to look into these numbers, right? And so, and it's been kind of almost like a tale of 2 seasons, right? So from December 3rd to January 8th, he went 7-1. Completely lights out, right? And then from January 13th to February 22nd, he struggled. He went 1-6-1. The team was struggling though too, so you really can't blame Nico because you know you got the team in front of you that's struggling as well. And then, like we just talked about, he turned it right back around, going what we just said he did. And you know what's? I'm looking at this right now. Oh yeah, in that time that I've been talking about in those past 9 games, he's got 3 shutouts, which is just
crazy.
awesome. That's including the playoffs too.
Good time to get hot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you know what I think kind of helps too is that he's got the confidence knowing that net is his now. Because let's face it, Akira Schmidt is not coming back.
Yeah.
Akira Schmidt has certainly earned his spot in New Jersey. Jordy, as a Ranger fan, I'm sure you realize that.
I do. Sadly, I do.
Yeah, I wish Jeremy was here because that would have been a perfect "it's a little thing" sign.
I know. There was so much crow Jordy was eating in that moment.
Yep. I've been eating it for the last 2 games. I know a New Jersey fan that's been giving it to me for the last 2 games.
But yeah, that's just it too. But I mean, really, you look at it as a whole. I mean, the Comets as a whole, they're starting to get contributions from everybody, right? And I'm just looking the Laval series alone. Ryan Schmelzer, the captain, gets 2 goals. That's huge. When you're starting to get contributions from up and down your lineup, that's going to help so much. Samuel LeBerge has been playing lights out, and Alexander Holtz is leading the team with 8 shots. And you know, here's the thing, right? They said he was sick for the past month or so.
Mm-hmm.
Getting him back now, getting him healthy, I think is going to be a huge boost for the Comets because they need him. They need that dangerous shot, especially on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
What did he have? What was wrong with him?
They didn't say. So, of course, there was rumor mills all over the place. I mean,
Yeah.
you know how that goes.
Wow.
I mean, that's
Upper body injury, lower body.
Yeah, it was an upper body injury. That was about it. And believe me, with the rumor mill, it was every single kind of upper body injury you could possibly think of.
The rumor mill was spinning for that one.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. But it's good to see Alexander Holtz back on the ice. They also got Brian Helenen back, and I'll tell you, Brian Helenen over the past the second half of the season has really come into his own. If you recall, he came to the Comets last season towards the end. He came out of Michigan Tech, I think it was. They signed him as a free agent, and first part of the season trying to get his footing. Then he got hurt for a little bit, but he's back now. And what I like about his game is him and LeBerge. They're both bringing a little bit of the grit to the lineup that you really need in the Calder Cup playoffs.
Yeah. Not only that, I noticed, and especially the playoff games, LeBerge was always talking. Even during the final game against Laval, I got like the end of a video of him leaning over the glass to the other bench shouting at the other bench.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That is awesome.
So there was some talking.
It's good.
Well, I'll tell you too, that Friday night game against Laval, that was getting really chippy.
Yeah, it was 100%.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I'm like, oh boy, this thing is going to explode at any minute. And then I'm thinking to myself, good thing for Laval that Mason Geertsen isn't in the lineup because that was a Mason Geertsen game written all over. I'm like, oh boy.
That's exactly what I told Jeremy after. I said this was a good time for Geertsen to be scratched because he would have fought everybody on the ice.
I know. He would have just kind of skated down the bench. Bang, 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 bang.
Yes.
Barry's got a good question here.
All right, let's see. What's Barry's question here? Let's see. Not sure if you brought this up, but who do you feel? Okay, we're going to get to that in just a minute because it's a
Okay.
great question.
All right.
That's a fantastic question, actually. Yeah. So, anyways, another guy that's really impressed me so far in this playoff, especially, has been Arnie Telviti. It can't be he's so unsung to begin with. You got to have those solid centers in your bottom six. And what Telviti is bringing to the Comets, solid defensive center, of course, but he's now starting to chip in some offense. You notice he's getting more aggressive in the offensive zone.
Yeah, and Vitti's someone that I've praised all year. I praised him since last year because he came in. I didn't expect him to do much as the bottom six guy, and he exploded. This year, he's doing the same thing. And for a bottom six center on an AHL team to do that, it's not the most common.
No, it's not. You're right. You're absolutely right. And, switching over to the defense, Riley Walsh has completely found his game. He really has. Again, here we go. Deep dive, right? Dave, look he's just rolling his eyes. I love it. I love it. I love making him roll his eyes. It's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing, right? He's had, let's see, both goals against Laval. Let's see, he's tied for the team leading shots second for the team leading shots with Graham Clark for 6th. Let's see here. Last 25 games for Riley Walsh. He's got 8 goals, 15 assists for 23 points. He's at almost a point per game pace right now. He really is. I mean, he did struggle during the first part of the season. It's like January 3rd to February 18th. He only had 2 assists. That's over 20 games. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. With Riley Walsh, as Riley Walsh goes, so does the Utica Comets offense. He really is the straw that stirs the drink from the blue line. When he's on his game and he's driving that offense is just so much more dangerous. And you can see it. You could just see the proof is in the pudding, right? And especially that Laval series. Once again, he was fantastic in game 1. Game 2, obviously, he got the game tying goal. What do you think, Jordy?
Yeah, that seems about right with how the Comet season's gone. When he's off, it doesn't help. But when he's on, the team's on. And it's somewhat similar to last season where when he was on, the team was scoring. It didn't matter. So, yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what's really helping too is the fact that Shimon Nemec has been having a fantastic rookie season. Absolutely lights out. Matter of fact, for the regular season, he finished 6th on the Comets in scoring. He had 12 goals, 22 assists, 34 points. To be able to have those two going at the same time is another major boost. Takes a lot of pressure off guys like Robbie Russo, Tyler Wotherspoon. They can just concentrate on playing defense. So if those two, Walsh and Nemec are firing on all cylinders, look out.
Yeah, and when Nemec came in, he was praised as one of the smartest guys out of that class. Well, as soon as he came to Utica, you saw it. He thinks so efficiently and quickly on the ice. And there's not many times where I look at a play he makes and go, what are you thinking there? What was that thought process? Most of the time it's, that was a good play.
Right,
and
right.
Just sifting through some of the Comets scoring earlier this year, his name I heard a lot, especially when it was someone taking a point shot from high circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Smooth as glass as far as a skater goes. You would never guess that he's 18 years old.
Yeah.
It's so hard to believe he's only 18. Watching him play, he's got the poise and the maturity of a 10-year veteran. He really does.
Yeah, he does. And he's he's not the most efficient on defense, but you can tell there's some base of a good defensive player too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you this, I am so glad New Jersey decided to keep him in Utica for the Calder Cup playoffs rather than call him up for the NHL, because it's just going to do him so much better to be able to get ice time during actual playoff games than watch him from the press box. And before we go into that Toronto series, I just want to also point out Graham Clark, what a campaign he had this year. It's his 3rd season in the AHL, and it was certainly a breakout one. Led the Comets in scoring, 25 goals, 33 assists, 58 points. Mr. Everything on offense, really, for the Comets. He consistent all year long. He's 9th in the AHL in shots total he's got 211 shots. Can't say many more good things about Graham Clark because he's just been fantastic for the Comets.
Yeah, and especially when you have him on a line with Stevens, When that line gets firing, it doesn't stop. And it's you've seen it during parts of the season where I remember a game where I think Stevens had 1 goal, Graham had 2, and there's been games where like you'll see both of them score. And every time I say when that line operates kind of like when Walsh does. If it's on, the team's scoring.
Right. Absolutely. And, I think the thing like with the Comets this year too, they've been kind of snake bitten by injuries. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people say, well, they've been inconsistent, which they have been, but they've also had a lot of moving parts in that line between injuries, call-ups to New Jersey. There was a lot of those this year again too. So I think right now everything is kind of starting to gel together. Now it should be noted that Michael Vukovic and Nick Hutchinson are not coming back. They're not. They're done for the season. They've had season-ending surgeries. There, I'll spit it out in a second. Ben Brunell from the Daily Sentinel is also reporting that Nolan Foote is questionable for Game 1 against Toronto. And as a matter of fact, let's shift gears and talk about that series, Toronto. So, Dave, if you want to pull the graphic up there, this is via the Utica Comets. There is your series right there. Game 1 starts tomorrow night in Toronto. Game 2 is Saturday night or Saturday afternoon in Toronto. And then they come home Wednesday night, May 3rd at Utica, 7 p.m. start. And then if necessary, Game 4 will be Friday night in Utica. And if necessary, Game 5 is Sunday, May 7th at Toronto. So let's talk about those Toronto Marlies for a second. Toronto finished first in the North Division. They ran away with the division, really. They locked everything up early. They finished with a record of 42-24, 4-2 for 90 points. Let's see, at home, they were 21-13, 0-2. Away, they were 21-11, 4-0. Pretty consistent. So just real quick, their bread and butter is obviously offense and special teams. Kind of a middle-of-the-road defensive team. They had an overall goal differential of +4 for the season, which is really unusual for a team that finished in first place to have only scored 4 more goals than they gave up. But they do have a dynamite power play. They're 23.6%. That's second in the AHL. So the Comets are going to have to be very leery of that. So in looking at this overall season series, Toronto won 5 of those 6 games. They played 6 times. Toronto won 5. But guess what? So did Laval. And we see how that turned out for them. So, you know what? And let's get to Barry's question here. So let's pull that back up because it's a pretty good time to address this. So, like it says, not sure if you brought this up, but who do you think the break helped more, the Comets or Toronto? I'm going to say this, that it hurts Toronto. It hurts Toronto because here's the thing, right? As Comets fans know, we saw what happened last year. The Comets ran away with the North Division, ran away with the Eastern Conference, locked everything up early. Then they went into cruise control, right? Once you get into cruise control, it's very hard to get out of cruise control. And we saw this with the Marlies, right? So their last 10 games of the regular season, they went 2-6, 2-0. They stumbled, right? And what did they have to play for? Nothing. They had first place locked up. Wasn't going to be that big of a deal, right? So now they've also last played on April 16th. Tomorrow is April 27th. So that means a struggling team that's been off for 11 days.
That's a long time.
It is. That's a very long time. And Jordan, you can't replicate gameplay in practice.
Yeah, that's definitely something that, like we say that with any sport, practice can only get you so far. Game speed's completely different, especially the playoffs. The playoffs are a different beast. And that break really is going to hurt Toronto because we've seen it. A really good example is UC the last 2 years. They do great. They catch a break. They come back. They're rusty, and it kills them. And like you said, the Comets also got killed last year. So who's to say it's going to at least make Toronto struggle those first 2 games?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the Comets, that even though they're going to be in Toronto, it's obviously going to be a hostile arena. They got to come out and they got to attack the Marlies right off the hop. You got to take advantage of a team that's been off for 11 days. You got to take advantage of a team that's been struggling going into those 11 days off. If they can keep the momentum that they had against Laval, then if you at least get a season or a split out of Toronto and come home to Utica with the series at 1, tied at 1, you're doing good things.
Yeah. And that would open up the series if they even stole 1 game on the road. That would open everything up.
It sure would. It absolutely would. And so, I mean, some of the players that they're going to have to watch out for, because obviously this Toronto team is loaded with talent. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And their offense runs through Logan Shaw. Logan Shaw had 21 goals, 48 assists for 69 points. He's 8th in the AHL in points in the regular season, 6th in assists. That's the one guy they're going to have to look out for, because he also led the team in shots with 204. He was tied for power play goals with Bobby McMahon, who we'll talk about in just a second. They each had 10. And then Logan Shaw had 29 points on the power play alone. So he had 10 goals, 19 assists on the power play. That power play is really, to me, what's going to be a difference maker for Toronto, because if you look at the Comets and their penalty kill is 77.4%, which is 27th in the league. So this series could very well come down to special teams, really. The Comets are going to have to improve on that power play. Their power play, and I know this has been kind of beaten into the ground, but we have to say it, 15.8% is 31st in the AHL. That is not going to cut it. Not going to cut it at all. Yeah. And if you're going to get into a track meet with a team like Toronto, which obviously the Comets don't want to do, and the Comets are actually a very, very good shot suppression team. So for shots allowed, they've only allowed 2,082, which is good for 28.92, and that's 8th in the AHL. So this is really going to come down to who can impose their will.
Yeah, not only that, with Toronto, their one big strength is goaltending, which I've heard a Leaf fan I know complain for a while now that Toronto should have called up their goaltender in with the Marlies, and he's probably better than the guys they have. I'm like, you're not wrong necessarily. I'd take Killigren over Wall right now up in Toronto, and that would make a difference. But it is also who can get shots on net.
Right. And looking at the numbers, I mean, Shalgren's actually kind of struggled with consistency. He's 10-9-2, got 3.26 goals against average, 883 save percentage. Doesn't have, you know what? Not a single shutout for the Marlies this season. By the way, interesting stat. So they can be had defensively. But again, this is just going to be turned into a series where somebody's, it's who's going to impose their will. Who's going to say, okay, we're going to turn this into a track meet, which is probably what Toronto wants to do. Or if the Comets are going to play lockdown, let's not give them room to move. Because other than, Logan Shaw is not the only guy on this team that can score. I pointed out Bobby McMahon. Now, he is also a Colgate graduate, by the way, so everybody knows. Graduated in 20. He's got 21 goals in 30 games played for Toronto this year. So you want to talk about a guy that can light the lamp? There's your guy right there, right?
Yeah.
They've also got some, NHL experience on that team. Joseph Blandisi, who's 5th on the team in scoring at 15 goals, 24 assists. He was with the New Jersey Devils. He was a pain in the butt when he was with the Devils. He's a pain in the butt when he plays with the Marlies. He's just one of those kind of players. They've also got Kyle Clifford, who won the Stanley Cup with the Los Angeles Kings in 2014. So a lot of good intangibles going for this team. But I'll tell you something right now. I think this is a winnable series for the Comets.
Yeah, and this with Toronto being a 1 seed, it's not like it's Syracuse. That's one aspect of it. This is a team that can be beat. It's not like you're rolling in playing one of the best teams in the AHL that doesn't look like it has a weakness. Toronto has a weakness. It's just can the Comets exploit that?
Right. And, I mentioned their explosive power play. Well, here's one way that the Comets can keep that under clamps. Just keep doing what they've been doing all season, because despite having a penalty kill, and that's really bottom of the AHL, they're the second least penalized team in the AHL. So if you stay out of the penalty box, that explosive power play does not come on the ice, right? So that's another way the Comets are going to have to do it. Overall, let's just take a real quick glance here at things. Offense, who's got the advantage?
I'd give it to Toronto.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Defense.
I'd give it to Utica.
Me too. And let's see, goaltending.
It's close, but I'd probably give Utica.
I give it to Utica as well, simply because of the way Nico Dawes has been playing, and he's got all kinds of momentum going. And special teams, I would have to say, goes to Toronto.
Yeah.
So, again, this is going to be a very, very good series, I think. But, like I said, We thought that the Comets were going to have some problems with Laval, and they handled them pretty well. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how that long layoff affects the Marlies. It really is.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows that the winner of this series is going to play the winner of the Syracuse Crunch Rochester Americans series, which the Crunch are up 2-0 in right now. They play, let's see, Friday night. Yes, Friday night is game 3 of that series in Rochester. Tell you, Syracuse looks pretty good right now. They do. Let's see, a 3-2 win in game 1. That was an overtime. Philippe Myers got the game winner. Game 2, they won 3-0. They didn't allow a shot in the first period in that game. It was incredible. It really is. And, in that first game, Rochester held Alex Beret-Boulet, the second leading scorer in the AHL, in check. Game 2, Beret-Boulet got 2 assists. They were both primary assists, and both of them were on Gage Gonsalves goals. So Syracuse gets their game going. One thing I was surprised at was Max Legacy got the starts. I thought it was going to be Hugo Alnefault, but it was Legacy. Obviously the Syracuse coaching staff knows a heck of a lot more than I do, and they certainly proved it.
Yeah.
Legacy was excellent. So here's the thing. Syracuse wins. If Utica wins, we're finally going to get a Syracuse-Utica playoff, and that would be in the North Division Final, which, by the way, just so everybody knows, the North Division Final is going to be a best of 5. Best of 5. So any closing thoughts there, Jordan, on this Utica-Toronto series?
Not much, other than obviously they got to stay out of the box and keep shots off Dawes.
Yeah, definitely. But hey, you know what? You keep playing with momentum like they are, it's going to be very interesting. So if you want to go to those games in Utica, you can get your tickets at uticacomets.com. The games are going to be on AHL TV and also on 94 K-Rock if you want to listen to it on the radio. So it's going to be awesome. Let's see if we can get that Syracuse-Utica North Division Final. All right, we're going to go to commercial break. Oh, and by the way, just so everybody knows, tomorrow on 315hockey.com, I'm going to have my full preview of this Toronto Utica series. So stay tuned. Even more deep dive, Dave. More stats.
You can't go any deeper.
Yes, we can. You could.
Yeah.
Listen, you forgot who you're talking to. You could always find a layer, pal. There's always somewhere to go.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to get an update on the Southern Professional Hockey League with an old friend of ours. We'll be right back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes Store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
And by the way, I forgot to mention too with that Syracuse-Rochester. Did I say that Game 3 was this Friday night in Rochester? Game 4 is Sunday afternoon in Rochester. Yeah. And then Game 5, it wouldn't be until May 5th, Saturday. Yes. But if Syracuse wins Friday night, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We're back from commercial break, and it is now my pleasure to bring in an old friend of ours. This guy is awesome. He's going to talk about the Southern Professional Hockey League. Before we bring him in, though, we got some video of his work that we want to present to you right now. Dave the Save,
Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to Game 4 of the President Cup Championship Series here at Berglund Center in Virginia's Blue Ridge, home of your Roanoke Rail Dogs, as tonight they take on the Peoria Rivermen. Ladies and gentlemen, your Rail Dogs!
And here is Roy Chambers.
That's awesome. As Dave the Save just gave it away. He is the former public address announcer for the Berglund Center, which is the home of the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs of the Southern Professional Hockey League. Mr. Roy Chambers. Roy, how are you?
I'm doing well, Scott. It's been a couple moments, but it's good to see you again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what's new and exciting for you?
Well, after the playoffs last year, I relocated back up to upstate New York to be a little bit closer to my mom, who still lives outside Oneonta. It was getting a little bit difficult to help her out when she needed it, being over 8 hours away. So I moved to the southern tier and living down here, renovating the house, traveling back and forth for work to Roanoke every so often. So staying kind of busy.
I see that. I see that. And that's, hey, listen, family first, as always. And, tip of the hat for you, man, for taking care of your mom. That's awesome. So let's talk about that Southern Professional Hockey League. Your Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs are in the President's Cup final. So
Yes.
Tell us about their path to the championship round.
Well, they started out the season pretty well compared to years past, and started off on the right foot right out of the gate, which helps when they brought the core group from last year's finals run back. A couple guys did retire. A couple guys were out from injury and rehab from the prior season. It joined later in the season, but they played pretty consistently throughout the year and wound up fourth, their highest finish in the standings in franchise history, and that put them in the first round against Evansville, who they did not play at all during the regular season. It's just one of those quirks that the SPHL has. When the schedule was originally set up at the beginning of the year, there were 11 teams, and so one team usually gets scheduled where you don't see them but maybe once or not at all during the year. But then things got kind of thrown awry when Vermilion County folded in the middle of the season, and it created some scheduling conflicts trying to get everybody their 56 games, and wound up changing the final standings from points based, which is typical in hockey, to win percentage as far as it goes. So, but they played Evansville. They swept Evansville 2-0, and then they had a rematch last week in the semifinals against Peoria, who was the number 1 seed this year. And the team that the Dogs lost to in Game 4 in Berglund Center last year. So Peoria won their first SPHL playoff championship. So that was a big hurdle for them. They came out on fire, Berglund Center, and won, went on the road, lost Game 2, and then jumped out 3-0 within the first half of the first period, and went on to win 5-3 to advance to the finals to take on Birmingham.
And tell us just briefly a little bit about Birmingham.
Birmingham finished second this year. They are a very fast team. They like to play a more wide open style, but they do have a defense that can control the narrative when they need it to. They've got 2 strong goaltenders, Hayden Stewart and Andrew Lotz. They both are in the top 10 this year in regards to goaltender statistics. Lotz got more of the starts, but Stewart has quite a bit of history with Roanoke over the years, playing in Knoxville, being more of a geographical rival. As this league is set up, as we've talked before, you tend to play your geographical rivals 10, 12 times a year. So he kind of knows some of the dogs from over the years that are in that core group and knows some of the tendencies. But again, he hasn't gotten as many of the starts. So it'll be interesting to see who goes for them, because he's got some better statistics, but he's only played 2 games in the playoffs.
Gotcha. That sounds a lot like the AHL up here. Geographical rivals played each other a lot. So
right, exactly.
But I'll tell you though, economically, it makes sense for the teams because there's a lot of travel costs involved, and if you can keep them closer, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? Because otherwise, you can raise the ticket prices, right?
Exactly.
Who wants that?
Exactly. Especially at this level. With these teams not being affiliated in any way with anybody, it's all gate driven items here. So any cost cutting measures they can do to keep things down for the fans, to keep them coming in the building, only helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barry Shelley says hi.
Hi. How you doing, Barry?
So going back to those rail yard dogs, you got a couple of Central New York guys on that team?
Yes, actually, we have quite a few. At the top, leading the helm, Dan Bremner was at Oswego 2010, 2011. This is really 4.5 years for him, including the COVID shortened year. He's driven the team to the playoffs every year, including the year he took over midseason during his first stint here. And this was really his first head coaching job. So he's stepped on the gas and taken this program to bigger and bigger heights every season since he's been here. He's got a 121, 102, and 29 record. And like I said, he's made the playoffs every year. So he definitely knows the upstate area. And we had a little conversation when we were at a function with the team here when I was getting ready to move. And we talked a little bit about, the SUNYAC area and some of the other squads up here. And he knows the area very well. Also from Oswego, Josh Nenendahl, 2018-19. This is his third year with the Dogs. 26 points, very high energy. He kind of was more known for the physical style, not afraid to grind and take the hits. But this year, the hands got a little bit softer. His point production's been going up during the regular season and in the playoffs. And the line that he's on right now is, more of one of those, third, fourth line grind type lines. When you get into the higher leagues where you have more players on the bench where you can have a fourth line. But at the same time, they're one of our hottest, in the playoffs between him and Garrett Sargis and Lava Lee. They found a rhythm, especially last series. And, they're doing both scoring and providing that physical presence to help, establish the Dog system and trying to get their offense moving forward and keeping the guys off the board. And then we got a rookie this year, Alex DiCarlo. He just graduated out of Oswego. He played 10 games at the end of the regular season, made the playoff roster. In the regular season, it's 10 games. He got 7 points. And right now he's got 1 goal and 1 point in the playoffs in his limited action there, with the 5 games that they've played there. So, the kids out of Oswego are representing very well, and they usually do, based on how that program always plays year in and year out.
Just saw Alex this year.
Yeah.
When they played the Pioneers.
Yep. And then we got 3 guys, on that were on the roster, 2 on the playoff roster from Morrisville. Christian Novella, he was second year in. He had a little bit of a tough season with some injuries and such, but he put up 8 points for us, didn't make the playoff roster, but he was a very big presence on the ice, off the stat sheet as well. CJ Stubbs, third year, kind of a quiet season compared to last year. I remember saying his name a lot on the goal scoring side. He's been hitting the stat sheets more on the assists this year. He was 9th in the league in assists, wound up with 47 points. Playoffs, he's got 3 points already in a game-winning goal. One of those veteran leaders that some of these younger guys are leaning on. And then we come to Nick DeVito, also from Morrisville, 1920 was his last year there. 36 points, 3 game-winning goals regular season. In the playoffs, he is number 1 in goals, points, shorthanded goals, and second in plus minus. And he's just got, to steal or paraphrase our broadcaster, Mitch Stewart, probably the hottest guy in the league right now as far as playoffs were concerned last week and coming into the finals. So upstate New York is, in central New York in particular, is very well representative as far as college products that are going on to the professional levels.
I see that. I tell you, Nick DeVito's got to be considered an MVP of the playoffs.
It's looking like it. Again, he's hitting his stride. He had, and realistically, the 5 goals that he's gotten so far in the playoffs have come in the last 2 games. He had a hat trick in the loss in game 2 and added 2 more in the series clincher the other night. So if he keeps it up and can stay consistent, then I don't think you can argue against that one way or the other. And, flipping the script there, going back to the Birmingham side, they've got a few guys too from, that are products from colleges in the central New York area. Another Oswego guy, Mike Gillespie, that kid's been lights out all year. 7th in the league overall scoring, and this is really his rookie season. From what I could see, he hadn't played professionally anywhere, took a couple of years off or something to that effect, but came in this year. 27 goals, 33 assists, plus 24 in the regular season. And that's in 56 games. He's third in the league in goals, and in the playoffs, he's tied for third in points, second in power play goals, and first in power play points. And he's, not too far out of Oswego from 1920. Another kid that's really on fire for them, Scott Donahue, 17-18 out of Cortland. This is his second year in Birmingham. 26 points plus 20. And in the playoffs, he's also tied for third for points as well. So, those two guys are really finding the back of the net all year and seems to fit into their run and gun type style that you hear them playing. They also have a Cornell graduate in Hayden Stewart, one of the goaltenders I mentioned earlier. 2.71, 905 save percentage, 12-8-1 this year with 3 shutouts. Like I said, he's a steady veteran for them. And then a rookie demon out of Brockport, Ryan Romeo. This is his first full year, plus 15. He's had 2 call-ups this year to the ECHL. He was 7th in plus minus as far as defensemen were concerned. So they're pretty stout, these kids coming out of there, like I said before, and their coaches aren't afraid to lean on these kids to reach their objectives and push through the President's Cup playoffs and the finals.
You're absolutely right about that. And, the Rail Yard Dogs did have another Oswego product. He's up with the Adirondack, the AHL, or ECHL right now, Travis Broman.
Yes. He started out lights out for us. He was probably one of the hottest players in the league in the beginning of the year until he got called up. Had a feeling we weren't going to see him back, just based on how quickly he adapted up there in Adirondack, and actually brought up one of our D-men to Adirondack as well too. But we had guys that could step in, and Coach Dan found some guys that were able to fill in and bring in some of these new guys and make a couple trades, and they haven't missed a beat, even though it would have been nice to have them come playoff time.
Sorry about your picture that just fell.
Yeah,
charge the damages to My Little Falls.
No,
Okay.
that's
all right.
no. I tell you, we'll put the it's the little things framed up there for you.
That's right.
We can do that.
Yeah, that one of those things that probably wasn't put up or put up in a rush type deal during the home remodel here, and just adding to the project.
It's hilarious.
He's a true pro though, because he just kept going right through it, not even rattled by it. And I'm just going to keep going. After the past 5 years, being a public address announcer and having the years of experience before that as well too, things go around you all the time, so you just kind of learn to tune other things out and just make sure that you're safe and keep on going.
And for anybody listening to the podcast, a picture just fell off the wall right behind me.
And Roy just kept talking. It was great. Didn't even turn his head. He just nope.
That's good.
Straight ahead.
That's good stuff.
But in all seriousness too, though, I mean, that's what's great about the SPHL. It's really providing a chance for a lot of good players to play. Jordy, you got some numbers from some Utica players that are down there.
I sure do. So, of the 4 currently getting time in the SPHL, you have Lucas Herman logging 7 games over the regular season, seeing 6 points, 4 of those being goals, and logging 1 plus minus. In the playoffs, he did log 2 games. The only stat he got was 2 penalty minutes, but he's still in the lineup making some sort of, I don't want to say he's making some sort of, what's the word? Some sort of impact, but he's there. Mick Curran hasn't seen time.
Contributing.
Yes, thank you. Mick Curran hasn't seen time.
I was going to throw all kinds of words at him.
I was like, what's he wanting us to say here?
Now, Mick Curran hasn't seen much time. He only played 4 games in the regular season. He hasn't seen any playoff action. but John Monkovich has. He had 5 games in the regular season, logging 5 points, one of those goals, and a 4+ minus. And then in the playoffs, he saw 3 games with his only stat log being a -2+-. And then Brandon Osmondson, like Mick Curran, hasn't seen any playoff time, and he didn't see much regular season time. So he's just there right now.
He was a pretty late signing, though. As
Yeah,
I recall.
that's true.
Yeah, a lot of those,
he came in
a lot
late.
of those guys were signed, after their season was done.
Right.
And the SPHL does have a period where you can sign some of these guys as rookies to get a feel for them.
Right.
To get a little bit of a head start on the recruiting for next season. So.
Yeah, because as I recall, like Monkovic, Herman, and Curran, they all, as soon as Utica season's over, within days, they were signing, and Ozzy was like a week or so afterwards. Jamie Bussell is still in Huntsville as well. So,
yeah, Birmingham just eliminated Huntsville to advance to the finals.
Yep. So, yeah, I'll tell you, it really is. It's so nice to see because, here's the thing, like, obviously Division I gets a lot of attention. It's great hockey. It is, but Division III is fantastic hockey too. And if you ask me, I've said this before and I'll say it again, Division III hockey is just growing leaps and bounds. It really is. And as you can see in the SPHL, the quality of players that are coming out of Division III.
Right. And it's, the SPHL is a nice league too, because it kind of gives them that taste of that professional feel a little bit and lets them, some of these guys that are playing the D3 level and going into, the professional ranks, some of them come out lights out. Other guys are developing slower, but then you see those guys that came on a little bit slower, spend a year or two in the SP, and then they start working their way up the ladder. Just gets them that, builds a little bit more confidence to, get that game up to where they need to be to take that next step and potentially go on to bigger and better things. I know there's been quite a few that have made it to the AHL level. Not too many have made it to the NHL level yet, but, from the SPHL. But the way the league is going and the talent that they're bringing in here, maybe that's going to change here in a few years. Maybe get a couple more work their way up through the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. So let's see. The President's Cup, that starts tomorrow night, correct?
Tomorrow night. Games 1 and 2 are tomorrow and Friday down in Birmingham in the Pelham Center. Then they come back for game 3 on Monday night in the Berglund Center. Game 4, if necessary, is Tuesday. And I want to say game 5 is Friday back in Birmingham.
Let's see. I've got that one right here. Give me, Dave, if you want to pull up that graphic we got there too. Just from right now. Here's the final preview. Right, and this is a great graphic you sent us. I love because it spells it right out, right there in in blue, white, and yellow.
Can't tell which team that came from at all. Can you?
No, not at all.
Gray and red and black.
But again, like we were talking earlier. I mean, there's DeVito, there's Nenadal. And you've got Gillespie on there and Donahue. These are guys that we've talked about. Coming out of Central New York and playing college hockey in Central New York, and they're right up there on the leaders on those stat lists. So, and then Hayden Stewart down there with the goaltenders. And I apologize, it's Austin Lotz. Had the wrong first name earlier, but again, there's a lot of talent coming out of Central New York that's represented in this President's Cup final. I think it's going to be a battle. These two teams, they couldn't be, stat wise, everybody looks at, the stats and the lineups and things like that. I mean, they played each other 4 times. Birmingham went 2-2. Roanoke went 2-0-1. Dogs won the first 2 in Roanoke. Birmingham won the third. And then down in Birmingham, Roanoke lost in the shootout. Total goals for the 4 games, Roanoke 16, Birmingham 14. So very close series all the way around there. Goals for, Birmingham was 3rd in the league, Roanoke 5th. Goals against, Roanoke 3rd, Birmingham 4th. Power play, Birmingham was 6th, Roanoke 9th. Penalty kill, Roanoke 7th, Birmingham 9th. So again, they're right there. They're right around each other all the way around. I think it's going to be a great, exciting matchup, and it's going to be one of those series that whoever takes advantage of the mistakes and allows the fewest mistakes is the one that's going to come out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. You gonna be down there Monday night for Game 3?
No, unfortunately, I'll be back up here. Too much to do up here. I'm actually traveling while they're on the road. I got to go back this weekend. So, but I'll be there in spirit. I'll probably be watching on Hockey TV and watching online. If I can't watch, if I'm working around the house, I'll be listening.
Now you got a picture to fix thanks to us.
Yeah, I got a picture to fix.
It's the big hole in the wall. It's going to take a while. Little spackle.
And if I can't watch, I'll be listening to Mitch Stewart on the internet, and he does a phenomenal job with his second year out of Penn State broadcasting for us. He's a local boy, grew up in Roanoke, and he is lights out. He's phenomenal to listen to.
Yeah, and that's at railyarddogs.com, it looks like.
Yes, that is correct.
So, yeah, if you want to listen to that, you said Hockey TV for
Hockey TV. Unfortunately, they do not have any subscriptions just for the finals that I can find.
You gotta buy the whole thing. Yeah.
But I do know, up in this area and across the regions there, some of these junior teams, some of their stuff is already on there for parents and stuff that are watching their juniors online. If they can't make the game. So, that's that same subscription. I think you get access to it all. If you have your junior subscription, you can watch some of the action from the President's Cup final as well on Hockey TV.
Yeah, and that's really cool too, because you get to see all kinds of different hockey. It's really awesome. It is.
Exactly.
Barry just let us know that there's a Stanley Cup update. He said Florida leads Boston at the end of 1-0. So AJ Greer and the Boston Bruins, former Utica Comet AJ Greer, down 1-0 to the Florida Panthers. We'll see what happens there, but I don't think it looks very good for Florida overall. But you never know. That's why they play the games.
It doesn't look good. They're up 1-0. All right.
Yeah, well, they're down 3-1 in the series.
I know, but still,
Yeah.
And I'd also switching gears just real quick. I'd be remiss too if I didn't mention another Central New York college product by the name of Brant Sherwood. Played with the Dogs the last couple of years of his career. Retired last year. Replaced Coach Gill down in Binghamton in the SPHL around Christmas time. And he has gotten the team into the playoffs down there. And I know they're starting their second round matchups. First time Binghamton has made it out of the first round of the playoffs since Binghamton Senators won the Calder Cup in 2011. So Binghamton's a buzz about that. They're playing in Binghamton on Friday, then go to Danbury on Saturday. So I know he's done some things down there and turned them loose. I know at least 2 games where they had over 70 shots on goal since he's taken over. So they're playing some exciting hockey down there and as well. And it's good to see him get a little bit of success on the other side of the bench. So. Yeah,
absolutely. I've heard nothing but good things about Binghamton, the Federal League there. And, it's pretty cool. Someday I hope they do get an AHL team back because they do deserve to have one. And, hopefully it'll work out for them someday. But, in the meantime, hey, go Bears. So
that's right.
All right. Well, Roy, this has been so much fun. I love having you on the show, man. This is
I love being here. I appreciate you having me on again. Sorry I didn't make it up to Utica.
No, listen.
I had hoped, but working on this house has kept me pretty busy this winter. So
hey, there's always next season.
That's right.
You need a bit higher quality level of work there, Roy. With the stuff falling down around you, I'm starting to question.
Wait a minute.
It's only the cosmetic stuff. All the structural stuff is nice and sturdy. So
the bones are good. You're telling me the bones are good.
That's right.
Yeah, Roy, just tell them this isn't HGTV. All right, this is 315 Hockey Live. Settle down over there.
That's right.
It's a home remake.
Jeez.
I like those shows.
You're going to have to call him Dave the Contractor.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I could need some more power.
Yeah. Well, there was a Dave the Hammer, so there you go, right?
There you go. Hey, that's another guy that played in Roanoke.
So. There you go, right? Exactly.
That's right.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, Roy, thank you again. We really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to close this show out. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed our Utica Comets Toronto Marlies preview. Once again, we want to thank Roy Chambers for coming on and updating us on the Southern Professional Hockey League. So for Dave the Save Warner, for Jordan Brockway, and for Roy Chambers, I'm Scott Kimball. Thanks for watching it, and we will see you next week on 315 Hockey Live.